Elijah Brooks was 41 years old when he realized his wife had already planned the rest of his life without him in it. For 14 years, he had been the kind of man people overlooked without meaning to. A quiet middle school science teacher in West Philadelphia who drove the same dark blue Honda Accord he'd owned for almost a decade, graded papers at the kitchen counter after dinner, and stopped every Thursday night at Marino's Corner Market to play the same Powerball numbers he had memorized better than his own Social Security number. Birthdays. Anniversaries. Dates that once meant family. Dates that once meant love. His life moved with a simple rhythm he trusted. Morning coffee before sunrise. Lesson plans stacked neatly inside a worn leather messenger bag. Grocery lists taped to the stainless steel refrigerator with magnets from old-school field trips. The small brick row house smelled like cinnamon coffee and lemon cleaner most mornings, and Elijah liked that. He liked ordinary things. Monica used to say that was what made him safe. But lately, safe had started sounding like small. Something felt wrong. The change had happened slowly enough to almost hide itself. Monica staying later at work. Designer heels appearing in the closet that didn't match their budget. New perfume sitting beside the marble bathroom sink, expensive and sharp, the kind of scent that lingered in hallways long after someone walked away. Elijah noticed everything. He just didn't react immediately. That Friday evening, rain slid softly against the kitchen windows while Elijah sat grading biology quizzes beneath the warm pendant lights hanging over the marble island Monica insisted they financed 2 years earlier. Upstairs, the shower was running. Her phone buzzed against the countertop once. Then again. Then a third time. Elijah normally never touched it. Trust had always mattered to him. But the screen lit up just enough for a message preview to appear across the black display. Once the money hits, he's gone. Elijah stared at the words without moving. The refrigerator hummed quietly behind him. Rain tapped against the glass. Somewhere outside, tires rolled slowly through wet pavement. Then he saw the sender's name. Terrence Hale. Everything changed after that moment. Elijah's expression never shifted. He simply leaned back slightly in his chair, red grading pen still resting between his fingers while the phone screen dimmed into darkness again. Upstairs, Monica began humming softly to herself beneath the sound of running water. Calm. Comfortable. Like she had no idea the world had just tilted underneath him. Elijah picked the phone up carefully. His pulse stayed controlled. Years of teaching loud classrooms had taught him patience. Years of being underestimated had taught him silence. He opened the messages slowly, documenting details mentally before he even reached for his own phone. Hotel reservations. Private dinner photos. Conversations about lottery winnings that made no sense yet. Mentions of lawyers. Mentions of starting over. Monica had been planning something. He could feel it now. Piece by piece, the shape of it was beginning to appear. And somehow, Terrence already knew about money that didn't exist yet. Elijah took 3 photos of the message thread with his phone, then placed Monica's device back on the counter at the exact same angle he found it. Not a fraction different. He heard the upstairs shower shut off. Steam drifted faintly down the hallway a moment later carrying Monica's expensive perfume through the house. Elijah returned to grading papers before she reached the kitchen. Calm. Precise. Watching. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, comment below where you're watching from and let me know if you've ever ignored a red flag because you loved someone too much. Because Elijah Brooks was about to discover that the most dangerous betrayals never begin with screaming. They begin quietly. With small lies. Soft smiles. And messages never meant to be seen. He had no idea what was coming. Monica came downstairs 20 minutes later wrapped in a cream-colored silk robe, her hair damp from the shower and carrying the sharp floral scent of perfume that cost more than Elijah usually spent on groceries in a week. She moved through the kitchen slowly, almost glowing beneath the warm pendant lights above the marble island, scrolling through her phone with the relaxed confidence of someone who believed every secret was still safely hidden. Elijah kept grading papers. His expression stayed neutral while his mind replayed every message he had just seen. Once the money hits, he is gone. The sentence sat heavily in his chest now. Calm on the outside. Calculating underneath. Monica opened the stainless steel refrigerator and poured herself sparkling water into a tall crystal glass. The ice clinked softly against the sides. Outside, rain continued falling over the quiet Philadelphia street while headlights passed slowly across the wet pavement. Then Monica smiled down at her phone again. Small. Private. Different from the smiles she gave him lately. Elijah noticed that too. "You are still awake grading papers?" she asked casually without looking up. "Big test next week," Elijah replied evenly, marking another answer with his red pen. "Kids need the help." Monica gave a distracted hum in response before leaning against the marble counter. Her phone lit up again. She turned it face down immediately this time. Too quickly. Something felt wrong. Elijah glanced toward the hallway mirror beside the staircase and caught Monica watching herself instead of him, adjusting the sleeve of her robe slightly while her expression sharpened for just a second. Like she was preparing for something bigger than a normal Friday night. He had seen that look before on television interviews with executives right before major announcements. Anticipation. Controlled excitement. Upstairs, her walk-in closet light still glowed beneath the cracked bedroom door. 2 new designer garment bags hung inside earlier that week when Elijah put away laundry. He remembered the labels now. Louis Vuitton. Chanel. Monica had laughed them off as client gifts. At the time, he wanted to believe her. Now every detail rearranged itself differently in his mind. Elijah finished grading the last biology quiz and stacked the papers neatly into his leather bag while Monica walked toward the living room carrying her wine glass. The television illuminated the room in soft blue light as financial news anchors discussed the Powerball jackpot climbing toward almost $500 million. Monica paused when she heard the number. Elijah saw it immediately. The tiny flicker in her eyes. Too interested. Too alert. Then she quickly masked it with another sip of wine. "Can you imagine winning something like that?" she asked lightly. Elijah looked at the television. "Life-changing money," he answered. Monica smiled faintly. "For the right person." The room fell quiet after that. Rain tapped steadily against the windows while a black SUV rolled slowly past the house outside, headlights washing briefly across the ceiling before disappearing down the block. Elijah watched Monica from the corner of his eye as she scrolled through her phone again, thumbs moving quickly now. Messaging someone. Probably Terrence. He did not ask. He did not accuse. Instead, he reached into his pocket beneath the table and quietly turned on the voice memo recorder on his phone. Not because he had proof yet. But because instincts mattered. And every instinct he had built over 41 years was telling him the same thing now. Monica was not waiting for something to happen. She already knew it was coming. Then his own phone buzzed softly beside him. A notification from Marino's Corner Market reminding customers that Saturday morning would be the final deadline to verify this week's winning numbers. Elijah stared at the message for a long moment while Monica continued smiling down at her screen. He had no idea that by sunrise, his entire life would split into before and after. Elijah barely slept that night. The rain finally stopped sometime after 2 in the morning, leaving the streets outside slick and reflective beneath the pale orange glow of streetlights. Beside him, Monica slept peacefully beneath the cream-colored comforter, one hand resting near her phone on the nightstand like she was afraid to let it out of reach. Elijah stared at the ceiling in silence while the soft hum of the ceiling fan rotated above them. Every sound inside the house felt sharper now. The ticking kitchen clock downstairs. Pipes shifting softly behind the walls. The distant growl of traffic somewhere beyond the neighborhood. His mind kept replaying the messages. Once the money hits, he is gone. Around 5:12 a.m., Elijah quietly slipped out of bed and walked downstairs into the kitchen wearing gray sweatpants and an old Franklin Middle School hoodie faded from years of washing. The marble floors felt cold beneath his feet. He started the coffee maker automatically, the familiar scent filling the room while dawn slowly brightened the windows overlooking the narrow backyard. Normally, mornings calmed him. Not today. Something was moving underneath the surface now. Something bigger than cheating. Bigger than lies. Elijah opened his laptop at the kitchen island and pulled up the Pennsylvania Lottery website while steam rose from his coffee mug beside him. The jackpot numbers from last night finally appeared across the screen. His heart slowed instead of racing. Calm. Controlled. He checked the numbers once. Then again. Then a third time. Every single number matched the sequence he had played every Thursday for 14 years. Elijah leaned back slowly in his chair. $502 million. One winning ticket sold in Philadelphia. The kitchen suddenly felt too quiet. He could hear the refrigerator humming behind him. Water dripping softly from the sink faucet. Upstairs, Monica was still asleep. For one strange second, Elijah almost smiled. Not because of the money. Because for the first time in weeks, something finally made sense. The messages. Her excitement. Terrence. Then he stood up quickly and walked toward the junk drawer beside the stove where he always kept his lottery tickets beneath takeout menus and spare batteries. He opened it. Empty. Elijah froze. The measuring spoons shifted slightly as he searched through the drawer again more carefully. Nothing. He checked the counter. His jacket pockets. The dining table. Calmly. Methodically. Still nothing. Something felt wrong. Upstairs, floorboards creaked softly. Monica was awake now. Elijah closed the drawer immediately and took a slow breath before walking toward the staircase. By the time he reached the bedroom hallway, Monica was already stepping out of the bathroom wearing a fitted white sweater dress and gold earrings, her makeup perfectly done for 8 in the morning. Too polished for a Saturday. Her phone was already in her hand. "You are up early," she said smoothly. Elijah watched her for a moment. Could not sleep. Monica nodded while slipping on a designer watch he had never seen before. "I have a brunch meeting downtown with some clients," she said casually. "Might be gone most of the day." Elijah noticed the Louis Vuitton bag sitting near the bedroom door. Packed. Heavy. Ready. Then he saw something else. A folded receipt partially sticking out from the side pocket. Moreno's Corner Market. Dated Thursday night. Elijah felt something settle coldly inside his chest. Monica followed his eyes for half a second before quickly adjusting the bag closed. Too quick. Too nervous. "You okay?" she asked carefully. Elijah smiled faintly. "Yeah," he answered. "Just tired." Monica relaxed immediately after hearing that. Huge mistake. Because while she walked downstairs toward the front door, Elijah quietly pulled his own phone from his pocket and opened the shared family location app she forgot still existed between them. A black SUV pulled into the driveway outside moments later. Tinted windows. Luxury trim package. Expensive enough that it looked out of place on their narrow residential street. Monica grabbed her bag and wine-colored trench coat before heading for the door without kissing him goodbye. Elijah stood upstairs beside the bedroom window watching her step into the SUV beside a man wearing a charcoal suit and mirrored sunglasses. Terrence Hale. The vehicle disappeared down the wet Philadelphia street seconds later. Elijah looked down at the Moreno's receipt still lying partially exposed near the dresser where Monica accidentally dropped it while leaving. Then he walked over slowly and picked it up. He had no idea that within the next 24 hours, that small piece of paper would become the beginning of Monica Brooks losing everything. Elijah stood alone in the bedroom for almost a full minute after the black SUV disappeared around the corner. Morning light stretched across the hardwood floors in long pale lines while Monica's perfume still lingered faintly in the air beside the dresser. The house no longer felt familiar. It felt staged. Like every conversation over the past few months had been rehearsed somewhere else before reaching him. Elijah unfolded the Marino's Corner Market receipt carefully beneath the bedroom light. Thursday night. 7:42 p.m. 2 Powerball tickets purchased using his debit card ending in 1147. Elijah stared at the numbers at the bottom of the receipt. 1 ticket. 2 lines played. His exact sequence. Confirmation settled heavily inside him now. Monica had not just taken the ticket. She had planned to erase him from the entire story. Calmly, Elijah took a photo of the receipt and emailed it to himself before placing the original inside a folder in his desk downstairs beside old mortgage paperwork and tax records. His movements stayed slow. Controlled. That was the strange thing about betrayal. The louder it became around him, the quieter he became inside. Something felt wrong. Around noon, Elijah drove downtown in his Honda through damp Philadelphia streets still glistening from last night's rain. Traffic crawled past luxury apartment towers and glass office buildings reflecting cold gray clouds overhead. Normally Saturdays meant grocery shopping and grading assignments at home. Today felt different. Every billboard. Every lottery sign. Every flashing Powerball advertisement suddenly seemed aimed directly at him. He parked across from Marino's Corner Market and stepped inside. The familiar smell of coffee, old newspapers, and fryer oil wrapped around him instantly. Luis Moreno looked up from behind the counter and smiled warmly. "Elijah," he said. "You hear about the jackpot?" Elijah nodded casually. "Crazy amount." Luis laughed while shaking his head. $500 million changes somebody's whole bloodline. Elijah reached into his pocket carefully. "I lost my ticket from Thursday night," he said evenly. "Still got the purchase record?" Luis squinted slightly before turning toward the register system. "Probably. You always buy the same numbers anyway." Elijah watched the older man scroll through transactions calmly while customers moved through the aisles around them carrying coffee cups and lottery slips. Then Luis stopped. "Yeah, here it is," he said. 2 lines. Same debit card as always. He frowned slightly at the screen afterward. "Funny thing though. Somebody already came in asking questions about that ticket this morning." Elijah's heartbeat slowed instead of quickening. "Who?" Luis shrugged. "Your wife. Monica, right?" Silence settled between them for half a second. The refrigerator coolers hummed behind the counter while a delivery truck backed up outside with a sharp beeping sound. "She seemed nervous," Luis added carefully. "Asked if there were cameras near the register." Elijah gave a small nod like the comment meant nothing. Inside, everything sharpened. "You still have footage?" he asked. Luis pointed toward the ceiling casually. "Store keeps 30 days automatically." Then he lowered his voice slightly. "Everything okay?" Elijah looked toward the front windows where sunlight now reflected off a black Escalade parked illegally near the curb outside. Tinted windows again. Same SUV. He recognized Terrence stepping out near the sidewalk while speaking into his phone. Expensive charcoal coat. Rolex flashing beneath the sunlight. Watching the store. Watching him. Elijah turned back toward Luis smoothly before Terrence could spot him inside. "Yeah," Elijah answered quietly. "I just think I need copies of those records." Luis studied his face for a moment before nodding slowly. "I can print everything." 20 minutes later, Elijah walked back toward his Honda carrying an envelope filled with transaction receipts, timestamp logs, and surveillance request paperwork. Across the street, Terence leaned casually against the Escalade pretending not to look in his direction. But Elijah noticed the tension immediately. The fake confidence. The constant checking of his watch. Terence already knew something had gone wrong. Elijah opened his car door slowly and paused when his phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. He answered calmly. A woman's voice spoke almost immediately. Mr. Brooks, this is Cynthia Wade from Pennsylvania Lottery Claims Verification. We need to discuss a ticket currently being processed under your household information. Elijah closed his eyes briefly. Then he looked up across the street toward Terence standing beside the Escalade. Everything changed after that moment. Elijah remained still beside his Honda while traffic rolled slowly past the corner market and cold November wind moved between the buildings downtown. Across the street, Terence lowered his sunglasses slightly as if trying to read Elijah's expression from a distance. But Elijah gave him nothing. Mr. Brooks, the woman on the phone repeated. Elijah brought the phone back to his ear. Yes. Cynthia Wade's voice stayed professional and measured. A claim connected to your household is currently under preliminary review. Your name appeared during transaction verification because the ticket purchase was linked to a shared financial account. Elijah looked down at the envelope in his hand containing the debit card records from Marino's Market. Every piece was beginning to connect now. Quietly. Precisely. I understand, he answered calmly. Is there a problem? A pause followed. At this time we are simply confirming ownership history before the public release process continues. If you believe there are discrepancies involving the claimant, we recommend legal counsel immediately. Legal counsel. The phrase settled into his chest like a warning siren muffled beneath water. Elijah thanked her softly and ended the call before Terence could see any reaction on his face. Then he climbed into his Honda and drove away without looking back toward the Escalade. He did not notice Terence immediately pulling out behind him 2 blocks later. Something felt wrong. By late afternoon, downtown Philadelphia glowed beneath pale gold sunlight reflecting off glass towers and wet pavement while Elijah parked outside Benjamin Carter's office building near Rittenhouse Square. The law firm occupied the upper floors of a luxury high-rise overlooking the city skyline. Marble lobby floors. Quiet piano music. Doormen in charcoal uniforms. Elijah felt slightly out of place walking through the polished lobby carrying a worn leather messenger bag filled with lottery receipts and printed screenshots. But he kept moving anyway. Benjamin Carter turned out to be a tall man in his early 50s with silver-framed glasses and the kind of calm voice that made people lower theirs automatically. His office overlooked the city through floor-to-ceiling windows where black sedans moved like tiny shadows far below. Elijah laid everything on the desk carefully. The receipt. The debit card logs. The screenshots of Monica's messages. The lottery confirmation. Benjamin studied each page in silence for nearly 15 minutes while the soft ticking of a luxury wall clock filled the room. Finally, he leaned back slowly. Your wife already initiated preliminary claim processing this morning, he said. Elijah nodded once. No surprise anymore. Can she take it? Benjamin folded his hands together. Not legally if you purchase the ticket and can prove possession history. Especially if there was intent to conceal ownership. Elijah looked toward the city skyline beyond the windows where clouds rolled slowly across the fading afternoon light. She planned this, he said quietly. Benjamin's eyes shifted toward the message screenshots. Yes, he answered carefully. It appears she did. Silence settled heavily between them. Elijah realized then that the marriage itself was probably already over. Monica just had not told him yet because she needed the money first. Benjamin reached for another document and slid it across the desk. There is something else, he added. Elijah glanced down at the paperwork. Divorce petition draft. Filed electronically 12 hours earlier under Monica Brooks. Temporary removal request from shared marital residence pending financial separation. Elijah stared at the document without blinking. Monica had already prepared everything. The lawyers. The claim process. The removal papers. Even the timing. Every smile during the past month suddenly looked different in his memory now. Every dinner conversation. Every soft, good night. Manufactured. Controlled. Calculated. Benjamin lowered his voice slightly. Mr. Brooks, I need you to understand something very clearly. Your wife believes she is already rich. That makes people careless. Elijah finally looked up again. What do I do? Benjamin's expression remained calm. You stay quiet. Outside the office windows, evening lights slowly began illuminating the city skyline one floor at a time while somewhere far below, a black Escalade pulled up across the street from the building and remained parked there with its engine running. Elijah left Benjamin Carter's office just after sunset with the city glowing around him in cold reflections of gold and blue. Philadelphia looked different from 30 floors above the street. Cleaner. Sharper. Detached from ordinary life. But the moment the elevator doors opened into the marble lobby downstairs, reality returned immediately. He spotted the black Escalade parked across the street beneath the glow of a pharmacy sign, engine still running, headlights cutting through the evening traffic. Terrence was waiting. Elijah adjusted the strap of his worn leather bag and walked calmly toward the revolving doors without changing pace. Years ago, his father used to tell him something during basketball games when pressure got loud. The first man to panic loses. Elijah understood that now better than ever. Outside, cold air rushed through the street carrying the smell of rain, car exhaust, and roasted nuts from a food cart near the corner. The Escalade's tinted passenger window lowered halfway as Elijah approached the curb. Terrence leaned slightly toward the opening wearing the same charcoal overcoat and polished confidence he carried earlier outside Moreno's Market. Mr. Brooks, he called smoothly. Elijah stopped beside the sidewalk but did not step closer. Can I help you? Terrence smiled faintly. Expensive watch. Perfect teeth. Corporate predator energy. The kind of man who believed money automatically made him smarter than everyone else. Monica told me things have been tense lately, Terrence said casually. I figured maybe we should talk man to man. Elijah noticed the choice of words immediately. Not husband to husband. Not friend. Control language. Ownership language. Everything about Terrence felt rehearsed. About what? Elijah asked calmly. Terrence glanced toward the office building behind him before lowering his voice slightly. Life changes fast sometimes. Opportunities happen. People grow apart. Elijah remained expressionless. Traffic rolled slowly behind them while reflections from nearby restaurants shimmered across wet pavement. Interesting timing, Elijah replied quietly. Terrence gave a small shrug. Look, Monica is ambitious. You know that. She wants a different life now. Different life. Elijah repeated the phrase silently in his head. Strange how easily people revealed themselves once they thought power belonged to them. Then Terrence smiled again. You seem like a smart guy, Elijah. I would avoid making things messy. There it was. Not a threat exactly. Worse. Condescension. The assumption that Elijah would fold quietly if pressured enough. Elijah looked directly at him for the first time. Calm. Steady. Messy for who? For half a second, Terrence's expression shifted slightly before recovering. Tiny crack. Tiny mistake. Then he leaned back casually inside the Escalade again. Take care of yourself, he said smoothly before the tinted window slid shut. The SUV pulled away seconds later and disappeared into downtown traffic. Elijah stood motionless on the sidewalk watching the taillights fade into the city. Something felt wrong. Terrence was nervous. Not confident. Nervous people rushed conversations. Nervous people tried to control outcomes early. That meant Monica's claim process was not secure yet. Benjamin was right. They were getting careless. By the time Elijah arrived home, the neighborhood was quiet except for distant sirens somewhere downtown and soft jazz drifting faintly from a neighbor's open window. Monica's Mercedes was already parked in the driveway beneath the porch lights. New car. Leased 2 months ago. Another detail Elijah suddenly understood differently now. Inside, the house smelled like vanilla candles and expensive takeout from the steakhouse Monica loved downtown. Wine glasses sat on the marble kitchen island beside unopened mail and a luxury shopping bag from Saks Fifth Avenue. Monica looked up from her phone as Elijah walked in. "You are late," she said carefully. Elijah removed his jacket slowly. "Long day." Monica studied him for a second too long. "Suspicious now. Careful now." "I ordered dinner," she said. "Thought maybe we could have a quiet night." Elijah noticed the bottle of champagne chilling beside the sink. "Not cheap. Celebration champagne." Monica moved toward him wearing silk lounge pants and soft makeup that looked freshly touched up despite the late hour. "Everything okay?" she asked softly. Elijah looked at her for a long moment. 14 years together, and suddenly he felt like he was standing across from a stranger wearing his wife's face. Then his eyes shifted toward the television mounted in the living room. A local news anchor appeared beneath a bright red breaking news banner. Pennsylvania lottery officials confirmed the winner of the $500 million jackpot would likely be publicly announced within the next 48 hours. Monica froze almost imperceptibly before quickly recovering and reaching for her wine glass. Elijah noticed everything. Monica smiled too quickly after the news segment ended. Elijah noticed the tension around her eyes immediately, the way her fingers tightened slightly around the stem of the wine glass before she forced herself to relax again. The television continued playing softly in the background while downtown Philadelphia glowed through the living room windows in reflections of red brake lights and cold November rain beginning to fall again outside. "Crazy world," Monica said lightly while reaching for the remote. "Imagine becoming rich overnight." Elijah loosened his tie slowly and set his leather bag near the staircase. "I imagine it changes people." Monica paused for half a second before laughing softly. "Maybe it just reveals who they already were." Elijah looked at her carefully then. Her posture had changed over the past 24 hours. Less guarded now. More confident. Like someone mentally stepping into a future she already believed belonged to her. The expensive champagne beside the marble counter suddenly made perfect sense. This was not anxiety anymore. This was anticipation. Monica moved through the kitchen gracefully while rain tapped steadily against the tall windows overlooking the backyard. She plated steakhouse pasta onto ceramic dishes they bought during happier years and lit one of the expensive candles she usually saved for guests. Vanilla and sandalwood slowly filled the room. Everything looked beautiful. Perfect. Manufactured. Elijah sat quietly at the dining table while Monica poured wine into crystal glasses beneath the warm pendant lights overhead. "You have been distant lately," she said carefully. Elijah twirled his fork once before answering. "Work has been busy." Monica studied him closely. "You sure that is all?" There it was again. Fishing. Measuring what he knew. Elijah took a sip of water calmly. "What else would it be?" Monica looked away first. Tiny victory. Tiny crack. "Nothing," she replied softly before forcing another smile. Dinner passed in strange silence after that. Every sound inside the house felt amplified. Silverware against ceramic plates. Ice shifting inside glasses. The low hum of the dishwasher. Monica checked her phone 6 separate times during the meal, though she tried hiding it beneath the table. Elijah noticed every single one. Around 9:30 p.m., Monica excused herself for a client call and disappeared upstairs carrying both her wine glass and phone. Elijah remained seated at the kitchen table long after she left. Rain rolled harder now against the windows while blue light from the television flickered silently across the marble counters. Then he heard it. Laughter upstairs. Soft at first. Then warmer. Intimate. Elijah stood slowly and moved toward the staircase without making a sound. Years of teaching middle school students how to avoid attention during hallway supervision had made him surprisingly quiet when he wanted to be. Halfway up the stairs, Monica's voice became clearer through the partially closed bedroom door. "He still has no idea," she whispered. A man laughed softly through the phone speaker. "Terrence." "Good," Terrence replied. "Once the claim clears, everything moves fast." Elijah stopped moving entirely. "Calm outside. Ice underneath." Monica lowered her voice again, but Elijah still caught fragments drifting through the hallway. "Penthouse. Miami. Divorce filing. Asset separation. Temporary removal order." Every word landed with horrifying clarity now. Monica was not considering leaving him anymore. She had already left emotionally months ago. This was cleanup. Business. Elimination. Elijah stepped back silently before the floorboards could creak beneath him and returned downstairs without making a sound. Something felt wrong. Not because Monica betrayed him. That part was already obvious. No, something else disturbed him now. Timing. Monica and Terrence kept talking about the claim clearing like they expected immediate access to the money. Too confident. Too organized. Elijah sat on the couch slowly while rainwater slid down the dark living room windows. Then his eyes drifted toward Monica's designer handbag sitting carelessly near the kitchen island where she accidentally left it earlier. The zipper remained partially open. Inside, beneath makeup products and receipts, Elijah spotted the corner of a folded official envelope stamped with the Pennsylvania Lottery Commission seal. He stared at it for a long moment while Monica continued laughing quietly upstairs with Terrence. Then he stood up slowly and walked toward the bag. Everything changed after that moment. Elijah reached the kitchen island slowly while Monica's voice drifted faintly downstairs from the bedroom above. Rain continued sliding against the dark windows and thunder rolled softly somewhere over the city skyline. The house felt suspended between two realities now. The life Elijah thought he had built and the one Monica had secretly been constructing behind his back. He looked once toward the staircase before carefully opening the designer handbag wider beneath the warm pendant lights. Inside sat an official Pennsylvania Lottery Commission envelope folded beside luxury makeup products, a diamond pattern wallet, and a set of penthouse brochures for a new high-rise overlooking the Miami waterfront. Elijah unfolded the envelope carefully. His pulse remained strangely calm. Years of disappointment had taught him that panic only blurred important details. The letter confirmed everything. Monica Brooks had already begun the formal jackpot verification process less than 6 hours earlier. Preliminary ownership review approved. Press scheduling pending. Financial transfer consultation arranged. Elijah's eyes moved lower across the page. Claimant listed as sole owner of winning ticket. Sole owner. The word sat there cold and deliberate beneath official state lettering. Monica had not just stolen the ticket. She had rewritten the entire story around herself. Then Elijah saw the attached notes clipped behind the letter. Estimated payout structures. Luxury real estate consultations. Private banking appointments. A handwritten checklist in Monica's handwriting. Divorce finalization. Remove Elijah from property access. Transfer accounts. Miami by January. Elijah stared at the words silently while thunder echoed again outside. 14 years together reduced to a checklist. Upstairs, Monica laughed softly into the phone again and Elijah heard Terrence's voice faintly through the speaker. Once the press conference happens, none of this matters anymore, Terence said confidently. Elijah closed the folder immediately and returned everything exactly where he found it moments before Monica's footsteps shifted overhead. Then he walked calmly back toward the living room couch and picked up the remote just as Monica descended the staircase carrying her wine glass. She looked relaxed now. Almost glowing. Elijah recognized the expression immediately. It was relief. Monica thought the hardest part was over. "You still awake?" she asked casually. Elijah muted the television. "Could not sleep." Monica smiled faintly while setting her empty wine glass beside the sink. "You worry too much." Elijah looked at her carefully beneath the soft kitchen lighting. "Do I?" Monica held his gaze for 1 second too long before looking away first. Another crack. Another mistake. She moved toward the staircase again but stopped halfway there. "Actually," she said lightly, "there is something I need to discuss with you tomorrow morning." Elijah remained still on the couch. "Sounds serious." Monica folded her arms loosely. "Just life stuff." "Life stuff." Elijah almost admired the cruelty of how casually she said it. Like she was preparing to discuss taxes instead of dismantling 14 years of marriage. Upstairs, a phone buzzed again somewhere near the bedroom. Monica immediately turned toward the sound. Too fast. Too anxious. "I should get some sleep," she said quickly before disappearing upstairs without another word. Elijah sat alone in the dim living room after that while rainwater streaked across the glass windows beside him. Midnight slowly passed. Then 1 o'clock. Around 1:17 a.m., his phone vibrated quietly against the coffee table. Benjamin Carter. Elijah answered immediately. "We have a problem," Benjamin said without greeting. Elijah straightened slightly. "What happened?" Papers shuffled softly through the phone line. Monica accelerated the process. She scheduled a private press appearance for tomorrow afternoon. Lottery officials are preparing public confirmation. Elijah looked toward the dark staircase leading upstairs where Monica slept peacefully above him. "Can they release funds that fast?" "Not completely," Benjamin answered carefully. "But once public perception locks in, recovering control becomes more complicated. Especially if she starts moving assets immediately." Elijah closed his eyes briefly. Something felt wrong. Too fast. Too coordinated. Then Benjamin spoke again, quieter this time. "There is one more thing. We pulled surveillance stills from Moreno's market." Elijah opened his eyes slowly. "And?" Silence stretched for half a second. "Your wife was not alone when she took the ticket." Elijah looked toward the staircase again while thunder rolled faintly beyond the windows. Then Benjamin added 6 words that changed everything. Someone inside helped her do it. Elijah did not sleep at all after Benjamin's call. He sat alone in the dark living room while rain drifted steadily across the windows and the soft glow from the city painted pale reflections across the marble floors. Upstairs, Monica moved around briefly around 2 in the morning before the house finally went silent again. Every sound carried weight now. Floorboards. Plumbing. The quiet vibration of phones behind closed doors. Elijah leaned forward slowly on the couch with his hands clasped together while Benjamin's words replayed in his mind. Someone inside helped her do it. Around 6:40 a.m., gray morning light began slipping through the windows as Elijah drove downtown again through wet Philadelphia streets toward Benjamin Carter's office. Traffic lights reflected red across puddles while black sedans crawled between glass towers and coffee shops opening for the day. The city looked ordinary. But Elijah felt like he was moving through a version of his life that no longer belonged to him. Benjamin met him immediately in the conference room overlooking Rittenhouse Square. Several printed surveillance stills were spread neatly across the polished walnut table beneath recessed lighting. "We pulled enhanced footage from Moreno's security system overnight," Benjamin said quietly. Elijah stepped closer. The grainy image showed Monica standing near the register Thursday night wearing a dark trench coat and sunglasses despite the evening rain. Beside her stood Terence. But Elijah's attention shifted immediately to the third figure behind the counter. Luis Moreno's assistant manager. A young man named Kyle who occasionally worked late evenings at the store. In the footage, Kyle leaned forward slightly and pointed toward the exact drawer where Elijah always kept his weekly ticket receipt copies during payment verification. Elijah stared silently at the image. Benjamin folded his arms. According to timestamps, Monica arrived less than 20 minutes after you purchased the ticket. Elijah's jaw tightened slightly. She already knew where it was. Benjamin nodded once. Looks that way. More images followed. Kyle printing duplicate transaction records. Terence watching the entrance. Monica slipping something into her handbag before leaving the store. Calm. Organized. Planned. Elijah looked toward the city skyline beyond the windows while morning sunlight slowly climbed the glass towers downtown. Why would a store employee risk this? Benjamin slid another page forward across the table. Bank transfer records. Large deposits. Elijah studied the numbers quietly. $30,000 transferred into Kyle's account 2 days earlier from a shell consulting company tied indirectly to Terence Hale. Everything connected now. Every piece. This was never about opportunity, Elijah said softly. It was a setup from the beginning. Benjamin remained calm. Most fraud cases are. Elijah looked down at the photographs again. Strange how betrayal stopped hurting once it became fully visible. Pain needed confusion to survive. Now all that remained was clarity. Then Benjamin reached into his folder and removed one final document. There is another development, he said carefully. Elijah glanced up. Monica's press conference was moved forward. Elijah frowned slightly. To when? Benjamin checked his watch. 3 hours from now. Silence settled heavily inside the room. Too fast again. Too aggressive. Monica was accelerating everything before legal review could catch up. Elijah already understood why. Public sympathy. Public identity. Once America saw Monica Brooks smiling beside oversized jackpot checks on every television screen, reversing the narrative would become harder emotionally even if the law favored him. Benjamin leaned closer across the conference table. We are filing emergency injunction paperwork this morning. But until a judge signs it, Monica still believes she controls the story. Elijah nodded slowly. Then let her believe it. Benjamin studied him carefully for a moment. You are handling this remarkably well. Elijah gave a faint humorless smile. I teach 13-year-olds all day. You learn patience. For the first time that morning, Benjamin almost smiled back. Then Elijah's phone buzzed against the conference table. Monica. Incoming call. Elijah stared at the screen while sunlight reflected sharply across the polished wood surface between them. Something felt wrong. Benjamin gave a small nod. Answer it. Elijah picked up calmly. Monica's voice sounded strangely warm through the speaker. Hey, she said softly. Where are you? Elijah looked out toward the skyline. Running errands. Monica paused briefly. Good, she replied. Because I need you home soon. There are some people here asking for you. Elijah's expression changed slightly. What people? Silence stretched for half a second. Then Monica answered carefully. Law enforcement. Elijah ended the call slowly while silence settled across Benjamin Carter's conference room. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, downtown Philadelphia moved normally beneath bright morning sunlight, but inside the room, everything had shifted again. What kind of law enforcement? Benjamin asked immediately. Elijah slipped his phone back into his pocket. She did not say. Benjamin's expression tightened slightly. That means Monica is escalating pressure. Elijah remained calm. Can she do that? Benjamin walked toward the conference table and gathered several legal folders into a neat stack. People panic when they think they are about to lose control. Especially people who already spent money they do not legally own. Elijah noticed that phrasing immediately. Already spent. Benjamin saw the look in his eyes. We pulled additional financial movement overnight, he explained. Monica transferred advance collateral agreements against anticipated payout structures. Elijah frowned slightly. Meaning? Benjamin exhaled quietly. Luxury penthouse deposit in Miami. Vehicle lease upgrades. Private banking retainers. She already started living like the money belongs to her. Something felt wrong. Not emotionally. Structurally. Monica was moving too aggressively for someone who should have been cautious. Which meant Terence was probably pushing her harder now. Benjamin grabbed his coat from the chair beside the conference table. We need to get ahead of this immediately. 40 minutes later, Elijah's Honda turned slowly onto his residential street beneath cold November sunlight. 2 Philadelphia police cruisers sat outside the house near the curb while neighbors watched discreetly from porches and front windows. The black Escalade was parked in the driveway beside Monica's Mercedes. Terence stood near the garage wearing dark sunglasses and an expensive camel-colored coat while speaking quietly with a uniformed officer. Elijah parked calmly across the street and stepped out carrying only his leather messenger bag. His pulse remained controlled. The first man to panic loses. Monica stood near the front door holding a white coffee mug between both hands like she was trying to look vulnerable instead of triumphant. But Elijah noticed the tiny details immediately. Fresh salon styling. Designer boots. Diamond earrings she rarely wore during normal mornings. Monica had dressed for an audience today. Terence spotted Elijah first and smiled faintly before whispering something toward Monica. She turned slowly and forced concern onto her face as Elijah approached the house. There he is, one officer said politely. Elijah nodded once. Morning. The older officer stepped forward holding a tablet device. Mr. Brooks, we received a civil complaint request involving escalating domestic property concerns tied to an active financial dispute. Elijah glanced briefly toward Monica. She lowered her eyes at exactly the right moment. Performance. Am I being charged with something? Elijah asked calmly. No sir, the officer answered quickly. This is precautionary only. Your wife requested documentation regarding access to shared property while legal separation proceedings are pending. Legal separation proceedings. Elijah noticed Monica avoiding direct eye contact now. Terence remained near the garage pretending not to listen while checking his phone constantly. Nervous energy. I have not threatened anyone, Elijah replied evenly. We understand, the officer said carefully. But given the publicity expected later today, everybody is advising caution. Publicity. There it was again. Monica's press conference already moving through official channels before ownership had even been finalized legally. Elijah looked past the officers toward the front door where 2 large suitcases now sat beside the entryway wall. His suitcases. Monica followed his eyes immediately. I think some space would be healthiest right now, she said softly. Elijah stared at her for a long moment while cold wind moved leaves across the driveway behind him. 14 years together and she could still not fully meet his eyes while lying. You already packed my things, he said quietly. Monica folded her arms tighter around the coffee mug. I just think we both need time. Terence finally stepped forward then with practiced calm. Nobody wants this to become ugly, Elijah. Elijah looked directly at him. You keep saying that. For the first time, Terence's smile tightened slightly at the edges. Tiny crack. Tiny fear. One of the younger officers shifted awkwardly before speaking again. Mr. Brooks, until the civil filing gets reviewed, it may be easier if you voluntarily stay elsewhere for a few days. Elijah nodded slowly. Calm. Controlled. Watching. Monica visibly relaxed the moment she heard that response. Huge mistake. Because as Elijah reached down to pick up his suitcases beside the doorway, he noticed something Monica forgot to hide sitting half-exposed beneath the kitchen counter behind her. A leather folder stamped with the Pennsylvania Lottery Commission seal, and attached to it was a printed media itinerary titled Winner Press Conference Final Schedule. The event started in less than 2 hours. And according to the bottom of the page, Monica Brooks was already scheduled to receive the ceremonial check live on television. Elijah loaded the 2 suitcases into the trunk of his Honda while neighbors pretended not to stare from behind curtains and half-open front doors. Cold wind pushed loose leaves across the driveway, and the flashing reflection from the police cruisers painted soft blue streaks across the wet pavement. Monica remained standing beneath the porch awning, holding her coffee mug with both hands like someone trying to survive a storm she secretly created herself. Terrence stayed close beside her now, confident again after watching Elijah leave without resistance. Huge mistake. Elijah closed the trunk carefully and looked back at the house one final time before getting into the car. 14 years. Birthday dinners in that kitchen. Christmas mornings beside those windows. Late nights grading student papers at the Marble Island while Monica sat nearby scrolling through luxury furniture she dreamed about owning someday. Strange how quickly a home stopped feeling like yours once betrayal entered the walls. His phone buzzed the moment he pulled away from the curb. Benjamin Carter. Tell me you are already driving, Benjamin said immediately. I am. Good. Do not stop anywhere except the Four Seasons downtown. I booked you a room under my firm account. Elijah merged quietly into traffic. What happened? Benjamin exhaled sharply. The Lottery Commission moved the press conference up again. Monica is already at the venue. Elijah glanced at the dashboard clock. 11:18 a.m. That fast? Faster, Benjamin replied. Media outlets are pushing this heavily because of the jackpot amount. Once cameras roll, public narrative becomes dangerous. Elijah drove in silence for several seconds while gray clouds drifted low above the city skyline. Can we stop it? Benjamin paused briefly. Maybe. Something felt wrong. Benjamin almost never sounded uncertain. What are you not saying? Elijah asked quietly. Papers shuffled softly through the phone. Emergency injunction paperwork has not been signed yet. The judge handling financial review is stuck in another proceeding. Elijah tightened one hand slightly around the steering wheel. Meaning Monica could still go public as the winner. For now, Benjamin answered carefully. But we have enough evidence to destroy the claim once we get inside a courtroom. Once we get inside a courtroom. Elijah understood the difference immediately. Legally they were strong. Publicly they were behind. 25 minutes later Elijah stepped into the Four Seasons lobby overlooking downtown Philadelphia while sunlight finally broke through the clouds outside and reflected across polished marble floors and towering glass walls. Everything inside smelled faintly of expensive cologne, coffee, and fresh flowers arranged near the concierge desk. Wealth had its own atmosphere. Quiet. Controlled. Elijah checked in quickly under Benjamin's reservation while televisions above the hotel bar played financial news coverage muted beneath scrolling headlines. Then he saw Monica. Large image on every screen. Smiling. Elegant. Wearing a cream-colored designer suit and diamond earrings while standing beside Terrence outside the Pennsylvania Lottery headquarters. Reporters crowded around them holding microphones beneath bright camera lights. Elijah stopped walking entirely. Local Philadelphia resident Monica Brooks expected to officially claim historic $500 million Powerball jackpot this afternoon, the news anchor said while footage rolled silently across the screens. Monica looked radiant on camera. Confident. Victorious. Terrence remained half a step behind her wearing a navy overcoat and practiced supportive smiles for photographers. Elijah noticed something else immediately. Monica was holding his numbers. His sequence. The exact numbers he had played every Thursday for 14 years now appeared behind her on giant television graphics nationwide. The concierge glanced toward the screen and smiled politely at Elijah without realizing who he was. "Can you imagine?" she said casually. "Life-changing." Elijah looked back toward Monica's face on the television. "Yeah," he answered softly. "I can." Upstairs in his hotel suite, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city while helicopters circled faintly somewhere above downtown. Elijah removed his jacket slowly and sat near the glass watching sunlight reflect across the Schuylkill River below. His phone vibrated again moments later. Benjamin this time sounded different. Sharper. Focused. "I just got the signed order." Elijah straightened slightly. "From the judge?" "Yes." Benjamin's voice lowered carefully. "Financial injunction approved. Ownership hearing scheduled immediately." Elijah looked back toward the television mounted silently across the luxury suite where Monica continued smiling beside lottery officials downstairs at the live event. "Can we stop the payout?" Silence stretched for 1 second. Then Benjamin answered with 5 words that changed everything. "We are crashing the press conference." The ballroom inside Pennsylvania Lottery headquarters looked less like a government building and more like a luxury corporate gala. Massive studio lights hung above a polished stage while television crews crowded behind velvet ropes and reporters adjusted microphones beneath giant digital jackpot graphics glowing across LED screens. Champagne flutes rested on silver trays near the press entrance and soft instrumental jazz played through hidden ceiling speakers. Monica Brooks stood at the center of it all wearing a cream-colored tailored suit that probably cost more than Elijah's monthly mortgage payment. Her makeup was flawless beneath the bright camera lights. Her smile practiced. Controlled. Victorious. Terrence remained beside her in a navy overcoat speaking quietly with event coordinators while photographers called Monica's name repeatedly from different angles. "Right here, Monica. Can we get one more smile? How does it feel becoming one of Pennsylvania's newest multimillionaires?" Monica laughed softly for the cameras while brushing one hand against her diamond earrings. She looked completely comfortable now. Like she had already crossed into another life. Something felt wrong. Because underneath the polished smiles and television lighting, panic had already started moving quietly beneath the surface. 2 floors below the ballroom, Benjamin Carter stepped out of an elevator beside Elijah carrying a leather briefcase packed with injunction orders, surveillance records, financial logs, and lottery transaction reports. Elijah wore the same charcoal suit he used during parent-teacher conferences and school award ceremonies. Nothing expensive. Nothing flashy. But for the first time in days, his expression looked completely steady. Calm. Focused. The first man to panic loses. Security personnel near the ballroom entrance immediately stepped forward when Benjamin presented the signed emergency injunction order. Their polite smiles disappeared almost instantly while one of the Pennsylvania Lottery attorneys was summoned into the hallway. "There must be some misunderstanding," the attorney said carefully after scanning the documents. Benjamin remained ice-cold. "No misunderstanding. The ownership claim currently presented to the public is under active fraud dispute tied to documented theft and concealment." The attorney's expression changed immediately. "Fraud?" Benjamin opened the briefcase slowly and removed the surveillance stills from Marino's Corner Market. "Monica. Terrence. Kyle. Timestamped transaction records. Duplicate receipt printouts." The attorney looked up sharply. "Has law enforcement reviewed this?" Benjamin nodded once. "This morning." Inside the ballroom upstairs, Monica stood smiling beside the oversized ceremonial check while cameras flashed continuously around her. "Winning this money means freedom," she told reporters warmly. It means finally living the life I always dreamed about. Terrence smiled proudly beside her while social media live streams exploded across phones nationwide. Elijah watched the ballroom monitors quietly from the hallway outside. Strange hearing Monica describe freedom while standing on top of lies. Then one of the event coordinators suddenly approached the stage whispering urgently into Monica's ear. Elijah noticed the exact moment her face changed. Tiny crack. Tiny fear. Terrence straightened immediately beside her while lottery officials began murmuring among themselves near the backdrop. Reporters sensed it instantly. Cameras shifted direction. The room changed temperature without warning. "What is happening?" one journalist asked loudly. Monica tried smiling again, but it looked wrong now. Forced. Terrence stepped closer toward the event staff. "We are in the middle of a live press event," he said sharply. "This can wait." But then the ballroom doors opened fully. Benjamin Carter entered first carrying the injunction paperwork while Elijah followed several steps behind him beneath the harsh television lighting. The room went completely silent. Monica froze. For the first time since this nightmare began, she looked genuinely afraid. Elijah noticed everything. Her hand tightening around the microphone. Terrence's jaw locking slightly. Lottery executives whispering urgently near the stage stairs. Benjamin walked directly toward the front without hesitation and handed the injunction order to the lead commission director. "This press conference is now subject to active legal dispute regarding ownership fraud," he announced calmly enough for nearby microphones to capture every word. Gasps rippled across the ballroom instantly. Reporters surged forward. Cameras turned completely away from Monica now and locked onto Elijah instead. "Mr. Brooks," one reporter shouted immediately. "Are you claiming the winning ticket belongs to you?" Elijah remained completely calm beneath the bright lights. Monica stared at him like she was suddenly seeing a stranger. Not the quiet teacher she thought she understood. Not the man she pushed out of his own home hours earlier. Something else entirely. Then Benjamin placed the surveillance photographs onto the media table in front of the cameras. Monica's face lost all color the moment she saw them. And beside her, for the first time all day, Terrence Hale stopped smiling. The ballroom exploded into chaos the moment reporters realized the official winner standing on stage might not legally own the ticket at all. Camera crews surged forward so aggressively that security guards were forced to step between journalists and the front platform while microphones stretched through the air from every direction. "Monica, did you steal the ticket? Mr. Brooks, how long have you known? Is this a criminal investigation?" Flashing cameras reflected across the polished ballroom walls while lottery officials whispered frantically beside the oversized ceremonial check that now looked ridiculous sitting behind Monica beneath giant jackpot graphics. Terrence moved first. Elijah noticed that immediately. Not toward Monica. Away from her. Tiny step backward. Instinct. Survival. Monica turned toward him sharply like she sensed it too. "Terrence," she whispered under her breath, panic finally breaking through her polished public smile. But Terrence already looked different now. Colder. Calculating. He adjusted his overcoat and avoided direct eye contact with reporters while one of the Pennsylvania lottery attorneys reviewed the injunction paperwork beside Benjamin Carter near the stage. "The payout process is officially frozen pending judicial review," the attorney announced firmly. The room erupted again. Monica stared at the attorney in disbelief. "Frozen?" she repeated. "There has to be some mistake." Benjamin stepped forward calmly and placed additional evidence packets onto the media table. "No mistake," he answered evenly. "We have transaction logs, debit purchase verification, surveillance footage, and evidence of coordinated concealment involving the original ticket." Monica's expression shattered completely then. Not dramatic. Worse. Silent collapse. The kind that starts behind the eyes first. Elijah watched her carefully beneath the television lights while reporters continued shouting questions around them. 14 years together allowed him to recognize the exact moment Monica realized the future she built inside her head was disappearing in real time. The Miami penthouse. The luxury lifestyle. The televised reinvention of herself. Gone. Terrence suddenly stepped toward one of the side exits while pretending to answer a phone call. Huge mistake. Two investigators near the ballroom entrance intercepted him immediately and requested he remain on site pending review of the surveillance evidence. For the first time all day, Terrence looked genuinely nervous. Sweat formed near his temples beneath the bright lighting while cameras immediately turned toward him instead. Monica noticed too. "Terrence," she called again, louder this time. He never answered. Elijah stood quietly beside Benjamin while the entire room spiraled around them. Strange how calm he felt now. No anger. No revenge fantasy. Just clarity. Monica finally looked directly at him again across the ballroom. Mascara beginning to blur slightly beneath her eyes. "Elijah," she said softly, almost pleading now. "Please." But Elijah simply held her gaze without moving. Because the hardest part to accept was not the theft. Not even the affair. It was realizing Monica only remembered his value once she thought she might lose everything. 3 months later, winter sunlight poured through the massive windows of the newly renovated Brooks STEM Education Center in West Philadelphia while children filled bright classrooms lined with robotics kits, science displays, and scholarship banners funded entirely through Elijah's legally awarded lottery trust. The building used to be abandoned. Now it carried his family name above the entrance in polished silver letters. Elijah walked quietly through the hallway wearing a navy sweater and carrying a cup of coffee while students laughed nearby during afternoon tutoring sessions. Simple life. Quiet life. But upgraded. Peaceful. A television mounted inside the lobby played muted afternoon news coverage about ongoing financial fraud investigations tied to the historic lottery case. Monica Brooks appeared briefly on screen leaving a courthouse beside attorneys while reporters chased after her with microphones. Elijah barely glanced at it while continuing down the hallway. One of the teachers stopped him near the science lab entrance. "The scholarship students from North Philly just arrived," she said warmly. Elijah smiled faintly. "Good," he answered. Through the large classroom windows, snow drifted softly across the city outside while dozens of students worked together beneath warm lights and brand new equipment he once could only dream about providing. Elijah stood there quietly for a moment listening to the sound of kids laughing inside.